Hey everybody, my name is Alan Kapp and my partner is Allison Boyce, and we are Group 5. For this group assignment, we decided to focus on personal space, um, really how we use space to communicate and how spatial behavior is influenced by gender. We talked in chapter 7 of our text about territoriality and space. And territoriality focuses more on a location. It's more of a defined space, whereas personal space it's more abstract. We carry it with us. It's influenced by things such as gender, age, culture. There's just a lot of other things that impact and influence that personal space. And we're going to explore that a bit more. And Allison is going to talk to you about proxemics.
Hi, my name is Allison Boyce, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about proxemics and nonverbal communication. As we have been learning this term, proxemics is the study of how we use spacing to communicate with each other. Now, for our research project, my partner Alan and I have been looking about how we use space to communicate between different genders. So for our research project, we specifically looked at personal space. And personal space is the bubble or area around us in which we allow people to come in and interact with us. There are 4 different zones of personal space, and those different zones include the intimate zone, the casual personal zone, the socio-consultative zone, and the public zone. For our research project, we specifically looked at the difference between the casual personal zone and the socio-consultative zone in a public restaurant setting and the difference between genders.
All right, so we've got a good idea of proxemics, just a general kind of intro. And I want to just re-clarify that we're going to be focusing on 2 zones of personal space. Allison talked about 4, but the ones we're going to really focus on are the socio-consultative zone, which is where most of our public interactions take place. Typically, the distance, the spacing is between 2 people is 4 to 8 feet. And like I said, this is where a lot of our business transactions and things like this take place. The other zone that we're going to explore is the casual personal zone, and this is the next zone closer to the intimate. It's a little bit closer and a little bit more intimate in that way. And that range is usually for us is around 18 inches to 4 feet, so bringing it in a little bit closer. So our hypothesis, what the question we're asking is, do men and women of opposite gender enter the casual personal zone when ordering food at an eatery? So that's the question that we're asking, and we have a few different ways, a couple different ways that we're going to test this. The first way we tested this hypothesis was by doing surveys with students on campus from 18 to 23 years old. All right, so in these surveys, we asked 5 questions. One being, what gender do you identify with? 2, do you like to go out to eat? And 3, how many days a week do you go out to eat? Do you feel comfortable ordering food from a female or male server? And then we had them check 3 reasons why they would feel more comfortable ordering from a male or female, being physical attractiveness, entertainment, comfort, better conversation, or that their food would come more quickly. So the results from our surveys showed that 75% preferred to be served by those of the opposite gender, with the overwhelming reasons being attractiveness and entertainment factors. So for the second part of our procedure, we went to a few local coffee shops and watched the interactions between customers and servers. And we're watching for the spacing between the 2. And the question that we're asking and that we're looking for is, do they cross over from the socio-consultative zone into the more casual personal zone, that closer area? The other part of this, is the interaction different for opposite gender or same gender interactions between server and customer? So that's what we're going to be looking for. In this footage, you'll see a female customer on the left and a female server on the right, And we found that this socio-consultative zone is actually kind of stays the same even in these restaurant interactions. Um, One of the really interesting things that we found out right away was that the counter itself sets up this boundary for this socio-consultative um, area. Again, in this scene, we have a female customer on the left, same female server on the right. This female customer, she does lean into the counter a little bit, but still keeps that, she leans in and looks, in the display case. But she's still she's kind of at the end of that 4 feet of the casual personal, and still right there at that edge between the socio-consultative and the casual personal. Here we have a male customer on the left and a female server on the right. Again, the male is staying within the socio-consultative zone. There's a spot here where he goes to leave, and then he comes back and leans in and actually leans forward. But it seems more, my experience of that was that he was straining to hear a little bit, so he was leaning in. So I wouldn't call that conclusive for him leaning in due to gender. Again, here we have a female on the left and the female server on the right, and it's pretty consistent. The female customer stays, right there at the edge of the counter. And Allison and I were both thought that people might lean in more, put their elbows down on the counter, and kind of get into that casual personal zone. But we found it pretty consistent that they stayed in the socio-consultative zone, and it didn't seem to be dependent on the opposite gender. So here we have a male server on the right. They changed shifts, and now we have a male server on the right and a female customer and a male customer together on the left. Female in the bike helmet. And again, they both seem to stay in that socio-consultative area. And whether it's a male and a female customer interacting with a male server, we really noticed, again, like I said, the counter. It seems like that naturally these counters are the barrier for our what we think is normal and seem to be comfortable with. Here we have a male customer on the left and a male server on the right. This male customer did lean back a little bit more, so he maybe, if anything, went deeper into the socio-consultative in that 4 to 8 foot range. He went closer with his body into the 5+ feet from the male server that he was interacting with. But he moves back and forth, and again stays in that same range. So here we're in a different coffee shop, a little bit different layout, and we have 2 female customers on the left and a female server on the right. And the customers are still staying in the socio-consultative zone. The only thing I would say is that they may be a little bit closer in, but again, it seems more a product of the counter. This counter here is a little bit, it's not as deep. It's a little bit thinner than the previous counter, but still they remain in that same spot. Again, we have a male on the left customer and a female server on the right, and the customer is staying pretty consistently at the counter. The counter is really acting as that line for the socio-consultative zone. He doesn't really cross into that casual personal area. He gets his coffee once he's served, and then finishes the transaction and then heads out. All right, so we wanted to also cross-reference our experiment done with another experiment. So we found a study done around spatial gap by Steve Madden and his team. They tried to pinpoint where the gap breakdown was between genders. So they observed the interactions of people to examine gender effects on distance and approach between male and female. They had two hypotheses. One was that more male and female participants will approach a female assistant when given the choice between the two. And two stated more male and female participants will approach a female assistant at a closer distance than a male assistant. The experiment happened over 3 days, a 3-day period in a healthcare facility, and they had a facility staff, a male and female, hand out surveys to the public. These public were able to walk up and choose who they received their survey from. So the results from this showed that persons of high status, the males, had more and better space for their use than those of lower status, which are females. Consequently, that the males were invaded less frequently when interacting with persons of lower status. The results showed that males were approached more often than females as well. And one of the things that this focused more on was power differences between genders, and that's what they looked at. As in our test, the results for Madden weren't what they expected. They discovered that instead of female assistants being approached more often, that it went the opposite, that males were approached significantly more than the females. Okay, so in concluding our experiment, we realized that gender plays more of a role in perception of what people want. From our surveys, we realized people seem to like the idea of being served by a member of the opposite gender due to entertainment and the attractive value associated with that. Eating and drinking is often a social act. You go out and there are expectations and preferences around these experiences and what people want. We found that the structure created by the physical layout and the counter of the cafe is significant in establishing and maintaining the personal zone that is interacted in between customer and server. And overall, gender seemed to have little influence on the spacing between the person ordering and the server in these cafe settings. So that's our presentation. We're group 5. Thanks a lot.